The myth of Persephone, stuck between your mother and your own life. You're not living your own life. Somewhere inside, you know this. You do what you should. You meet expectations. You don't disappoint. You keep everything under control. But sometimes at night a strange feeling washes over you. Like your real life is passing by somewhere else. Like you're watching yourself from outside and don't recognize who you see. This isn't a midlife crisis. This isn't depression. This is something more ancient. The Greeks told this story 3,000 years ago. A story about a girl who was taken and a mother who couldn't let her go. A story about how hard it is to stop being someone's daughter and start being yourself. Her name was Persephone. And maybe you'll recognize yourself in her. Persephone was the daughter of Demeter, goddess of fertility, the earth, all living things. The mother adored her, protected her, kept her close. Persephone grew up in eternal spring, surrounded by flowers and light. She had no reason to leave. But one day the earth split open. Out of the crack appeared Hades, god of the underworld. He seized Persephone and carried her down into the kingdom of the dead. Demeter went mad with grief. She searched for her daughter across the entire world. And while she searched, the earth stopped giving life. Eternal winter came. People starved. The gods intervened. They forced Hades to return Persephone. But it was too late. She had already eaten pomegranate seeds in the underworld. And by the laws of that realm, whoever tastes its food is bound to it forever. So a compromise was made. Part of the year Persephone spends with her mother on earth, and everything blooms. Part of the year she's in the underworld with Hades, and winter comes. This is a myth about the seasons. But it's much more than that. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung saw myths not as mere stories. He saw them as maps of the psyche. For him, Persephone was an archetype, a model for a certain way of being in the world. Jung and his followers, especially Shinoda Bolen, described the Persephone woman as one who lives in a state of eternal daughter. She adapts. She pleases. She has no clear sense of her own desires. She is what others want her to be. Such a woman can be successful. She can be in relationships. She can look completely fine. But inside, there's a strange emptiness. The feeling that she's playing a role but not living. Because she never descended into her own underworld. In the myth, Persephone's abduction looks like violence. Hades bursts in, takes her against her will. But Jungian psychology reads this differently. The underworld is the unconscious. It's depth. It's meeting the shadow, what we hide, suppress, deny. It's the dark side of the psyche. Persephone wasn't simply abducted. She was called by something deep. Something that didn't exist in the eternal spring of her mother's world. Something her mother couldn't give her. Psychologist and Jungian analyst Sylvia Brinton Pereira writes about the necessity of descent for psychological maturation, especially for women who grew up as the good daughter. To find yourself, you must descend into the depths. Meet the darkness. Lose your old identity. It's painful. It feels like death. But without this, there's no real birth. Demeter in the myth is a loving mother. But her love suffocates. She cannot let go of her daughter. She stops the entire world, literally, to get her back. She cannot bear separation. In psychology, this is called a symbiotic bond. When mother and child are so merged that the child doesn't feel they have the right to exist separately. Such a mother isn't necessarily bad. More often the opposite. She loves too much. But her love leaves no room for separation. She transmits this. Without me, you won't survive. Your independence is betrayal. Your separateness causes me pain. And the daughter absorbs this. If I become myself, I will destroy my mother. I must remain her extension so she stays intact. Margaret Mahler, the psychoanalyst who studied child development, described the process of separation individuation, the journey from fusion with mother to a separate self. Normally, this process completes by age 3. But emotionally, it can last a lifetime, especially if the mother cannot tolerate the separation. An adult woman with incomplete separation lives in constant conflict. Part of her wants her own life. Part is afraid of destroying her mother, disappointing her, betraying her. She gets stuck, like Persephone, between two worlds. The pomegranate in the myth is not a random detail. Persephone ate pomegranate seeds in the underworld. This is the symbol of a point of no return. She tasted something forbidden and could never be the same again. In psychological terms, this is the moment when a person touches their own depth, their true desires, what mother won't approve of. It can be anything. Choosing a partner the family doesn't accept, a career parents think is wrong, a lifestyle that doesn't fit their expectations, or simply an internal feeling. I want something different. Once you've tasted this, you can never fully return to your mother's world. But fully leaving for your own world is terrifying. And the split begins. Part of you here, part there. You're never fully present. Not in your life, not in your mother's. This state can last years, decades, a lifetime. Nancy Friday, author of My Mother, Myself, describes how unresolved relationships with mothers affect everything. Partner choice, self-perception, the ability to be happy. A woman who hasn't completed separation often chooses partners who resemble her mother. Controlling, critical, demanding conformity. Or the opposite. Those who let her remain small, dependent, an eternal girl. She may sabotage her own success because surpassing her mother feels like betrayal. She may not allow herself to be happy because unconsciously she believes she has no right to it. And none of this is conscious. It operates from the depths, from the basement of the psyche where we don't look. The Vedic tradition also speaks of the need for separation in different language. In Ayurveda and yoga, there's the concept of Vamsakara, the ancestral line. We carry within us the patterns of our ancestors, not just genetically, but energetically, psychologically. And the task of maturation is to become aware of these patterns and choose what to carry forward and what to stop. The Vedas speak of dharma, your own path. But to find your dharma, you must first separate it from your parents' dharma. Understand where their desires end and yours begin. This isn't about renouncing family. It's about stopping living their unlived life. What does being stuck in the Persephone complex look like? You feel guilty when you do something for yourself, as if taking for yourself means taking from someone else. You don't know what you want. The question, what do you want, creates confusion, not an answer. You adapt easily to others. You become what your partner, boss, friend needs. But you lose yourself in the process. You avoid conflict with your mother, even when there's accumulated anger inside. It's easier to stay silent than endure her reaction. You feel like life is passing you by, like you're waiting for something but don't know what. What do you do with this knowledge? First, admit that your mother won't release you on her own. This isn't her job. It's yours. Waiting for her to one day say, "Go, live your life, I'll be fine," means waiting forever. Separation is not something a parent gives. It's something a child takes. Second, allow yourself to descend into the underworld. This means stop avoiding dark feelings. Anger at your mother. Grief over what wasn't there. Fear of your own separateness. These feelings aren't dangerous. They're the path down. And only down there can you find your real self. Third, eat your pomegranate. Do something that will be a point of no return. Something yours. Something your mother wouldn't choose for you. This doesn't have to be a dramatic break. Sometimes it's a small decision, but made from your own center, not from fear of disappointing. Fourth, endure the winter. When you begin to separate, Demeter's world freezes. There will be cold. There will be guilt. There will be the feeling that you're doing something terrible. But winter isn't forever. And after it comes your spring. Not your mother's. Yours. Persephone in the myth becomes queen of the underworld. Not a victim. A queen. She passed through darkness and gained power over it. She learned to live in both worlds, but no longer as a prisoner. As one who chooses. This is maturation. Not rejecting your mother, but the ability to love her without losing yourself. Not breaking the bond, but transforming it from suffocating to free. You can love your mother and live your own life. This isn't betrayal. It's the only way to truly grow up. You thought being a good daughter was everything, but maybe it's time to become yourself. If this resonated, subscribe. This is where we talk about what usually stays unspoken. In the next video, we explore the shadow, the part of you that you hide and that runs your life from the darkness.